From developments in animal husbandry in 8000 BCE to the modern meat industry that supplies a lot of our diet, it is undeniable that meat has played an important contribution to the developments of human and civilization. But today is a hot debate on whether or not meat has overstayed its welcome, with environmentalists pointing to the intense resource usage and methane emissions of cattle, while more ethical concerns are placed on the inhumane living conditions and mass slaughter of these animals. I'm going to instead be focusing more on the health aspects of it, as I believe it to be the most relevant and least discussed, debated about in the argument. I'm not a meat expert, but I have been studying the topic of meat since we were given this topic, as well as taking several health classes in high school. And today I would like to talk about how overconsumption of meat has contributed to declining health rates in America. To understand the argument better, we need to first understand the difference between red meat and white meat. Red meat is meat that does constant work, such as walking, moving your limbs and fingers, and speaking. While white meat is meant for sudden bursts of energy, like when a chicken flaps its wings suddenly to evade predators. As a result, red meat has a lot more saturated fats and nutrients available when compared to white meat. Fish is a unique case because it has unsaturated fats, fats that are liquid at room temperature, as well as shorter protein strands in order to have better mobility, which also has the unintended side effect of making it a lot more tender. Now, it may seem that red meat should be a lot healthier than the other two, as there's more nutrients available. But the problem is that we're over-consuming the nutrients that we need. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans in 2020 claims that you need to limit your diet to about 26 ounces of meat per week. Problem is that most humans eat nearly 3 times as much, 70 grams per week, with the demand expected to increase. This does not do wonders for our health. Statistics provided by the Journal of Medicine demonstrate how eating 100 grams of unprocessed red meat increases the risks of diabetes by about 15%, the risk of stroke by about 10%, and the risk of cardiovascular disease by about 20%. These risks jump for eating a healthy amount of processed red meats that go through treatments such as salting and curing, and as a result, introduce a lot more nitrates and sodium into the foods that we eat, with substantial increase in diabetes to 30%, cardiovascular disease by about 40%, and heart failure from about 10 to 20%. Cancer rates, although a bit more bearable, show how it's overall bad, with increased risk of esophagus cancer from 40 to 50%, risk of liver cancer from about to 40%, risk of pancreas disease about 20%. Now, some of you may point out how sugar is a lot more lethal because you eat just a lot more of it and it's more refined, but that ignores other risks that meat poses, such as bioaccumulation, how the concentrations of toxins in our food increase because it eats other foods with lower toxins, or if we take the factors of environment out, food poisoning. The CDC did a study in 2013 which shows how meat and poultry is a lot more lethal when compared to other food groups such as produce and dairy and eggs. Even produce, which has more infections when compared to meat and poultry, has some stipulations that still make meat overall bad. As Sandra Eskins, a food safety director of the Pew Charitable Fund, puts it, many of the pathogens that we worry about in our produce, like E. coli or Salmonella, are actually of animal origin. So if you have a field of spinach contaminated, it's coming from somewhere else on neighboring farms. Now, I could tell you to eat less meat and that could solve your problems, but it is undeniable that meat is delicious. So how about instead of trying to eat less meat, we try to improve our cooking skills in tandem with eating less meat so that we can maintain these habits better. For example, texture makes up a significant portion of whether or not we like or dislike food, but it's often ruined by stuff like boiled mush. So instead of boiling our vegetables, let's try roasting them in a tray to get more of a crispy and airy texture. Or to embed flavors into the food that we eat, we try pickling them to maintain crunch, or marinating our salads in the dressing that we want days beforehand. I'm not a professional chef, but there is a lot of resources available that you can use you can rely on to help you get better at cooking. As for protein substitutes, beans, rice, and tofu can pretty much replace meat. But if you're still determined on eating meat, try to eat less red meats and processed meats and more white meats and seafood. Or if you're feeling a bit experimental, try impossible meats. Meats that are made 100% by plants and is becoming increasingly attractive. Now, there are a lot of cultures around the world that already do this. A lot of Asian countries, such as China, have fried rice, or Japanese cultures have vegetable sushi. Latin American countries have stuff like baked beans and fried plantains. But the most important is India. A Pew Research has shown how 40% of the country is self-reportedly vegan as a result of religious and cultural reasons, and as such has a lot of options for vegan food, such as vegetable korma, curries, and garlic naan. But don't let my suggestions limit you. Make the foods that you want, and you can make the substitutions that you want, so you can better enjoy the foods Because I don't know your life, and I trust that you can make better substitutions than any of recommendations I'll give you. Overall, try to cut down on the meat that you consume to decrease your risks of mortality, and use this as an opportunity to improve your cooking instead of seeing it as a minor inconvenience. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and have a nice day.